number 229. Number 229 will be our song of invitation. If you want to go ahead and mark that in your books. 229. Do y'all recognize this young man? Remember when Mitska was here? She waved to all of us. Marinko graduated from his academy, and most law enforcement commanders will allow at that ceremony for you to have a loved one come forward and pin your star on your chest. My father did mine. Marinko's brother did his. Was Marinko a police officer then? Well, by the state of Florida, he was. He had passed his certification test. He had shown all the practical skills that were applied. He was trained how to drive a car, how to shoot a gun, how to fight. And he was taught the law and all the academics of being a police officer. But I bet you that if you were to ask Marinko, were you ready? Well, there's a big difference. There's a big difference of standing up there and having a star pinned to your chest and then actually going out into the world and enforcing the law. You see, he was taught and he learned all about Florida law, and he understood that academic aspect of the law. And it taught him to do what is right. But he stepped into the next phase, and that was he was paired up with a FTO, a field training officer. There's a big difference between teaching and training. Training shows you what will be required and how to practice law enforcement. It shapes you. It takes all those elements and it forms within you the habits necessary to keep yourself safe and those who you are to serve and protect. A lot of guys make it through the classroom and utterly fail in their FTO. And they are kindly shown the door. Last week, I stood up here and I said, if you have a tender heart and you have a faith, then you need to act. And Jimmy said to me during the week, what act? What action are we to take? It's one thing to teach, it's another to train. Jesus taught them as one with authority. Proverbs 22, train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. So, we need to teach and we need to train our children. I think we sometimes tend to shy away from that aspect of it. Why? Because that's where your hypocrisy is going to show.
Mm-hmm.
That's where your child's going to say, you told me not to lie, and I hear you lying. You told me to love, but I see you hating. Jesus taught as one who had authority, but then he lived that. He walked that walk, and he trained his disciples on what compassion was, how to forgive, how to go the extra mile. And so, as I thought about what Jimmy had asked me, I thought, well, maybe we should go back and look at some of Jesus' teaching. Apply that and train up our children. Last week I said, this is imperative. This is how the kingdom goes from generation to generation. I know folks who get caught up on teaching and they really, really stumble when it comes to training. Matthew chapter 5, verse 1, Jesus seeing the crowds. What did he see? Don't say the crowds. What did he see? He saw fishermen, carpenters, lawyers, politicians, scribes, sinners, a lot of lost sheep. And he went up on the mountain and he sat down. His disciples came to him. He opened his mouth and he taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Immediately, he wants us to change our hearts. Immediately, he is coming out of the chute and he's saying, the kingdom is coming, the kingdom is at hand, and you need to work on your hearts, people. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. And blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. And then he says, they're going to persecute you. If you behave this way, they're going to persecute you just like they persecuted the prophets. Well, okay, if you want me to change my heart and you want me to be as one of the prophets, tell me what was in a prophet's heart. Courage? Definitely courage. This is the ultimate speaking truth to power. That's what the prophet had to do. The prophet had to be humble. The prophet had to realize this may cost me my life. The prophet had to say, here I am, send me. Are we training our kids for that? that walking this path is going to lead to persecution, that being humble and meek and gentle may bring violence against them? You are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? You ever thought about being salt? What is salt? It's a flavor enhancer, is what it is. You never sit down at a big plate of salt and just say, hey, I'm just going to eat this salt. This is great. Nobody does that. But you know when salt's missing. Stephanie makes sourdough bread, and it is delicious. It is delicious. And when you bite into that, you don't go, man, this is good salt. You go, this is the best sourdough bread I've ever had. Jesus is the bread of life. And we're the flavor enhancers. Your personality, your love that you show to others should bring them to the bread of life. And Jesus isn't something that's bland, is he? He supplies all our needs. And if we hunger and thirst after him, then it's all about him. That's what people need to know. If it's all about you, you've got the priorities wrong. If you've lost your saltiness, it's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. You're the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all that are in the house. You glorify God when you do good. Don't forget that. Why do you do good? Because God asks it of you. God commands us to be kind. God says if you are to go 1 mile, you go 2. But it's to his glory. You've heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be liable to judgment. But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to the council, and whoever says, you fool, will be liable to the hell of fire. You gotta take anger off. Anger's delicious too. I mean, I see people savor anger, and they feed on that and bring it into their heart. You know, right after this, what Jesus says, you can't worship if you're angry. If you're angry with your brother, before you ever even try to come into the house of worship, you need to get that worked out. It'll burn you out. God doesn't accept that worship because why? Pride. Most of your anger is going to be tied back directly to your pride. You've heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Boy. I would want to be a teenager today. This is hard times for them. With the internet and the things that are coming. Right after this, Jesus says, if your eye causes you to stumble, pluck it out. When you have made the all-important choice of who your spouse will be, you better hold to that. For you have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. He makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and he sends rain on the just and the unjust. If you love those who love you, you're no better than a Gentile. If you say hello to those who say hello, you're no better than a Gentile. You've got to do better than that. You need to teach your children, train your children to do better than that, to be perfect, is what he says. To love perfectly like God loves. Thus, when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Don't give for the attention. Don't pray for the attention. Don't fast for the attention. Every bit of this is to be done where? Anonymously, in the closet, washed face. That's how you're to live. Those are the things that we are to teach. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Let's get it back to the heart and prioritize it that way. We spend an awful lot of time amassing treasure. And it's all for naught. For who knows whether your son will be wise or a fool. Put the spiritual over the physical. Whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them. For this is the law and the prophets. Took the children trick-or-treating when they were little. And we went into a certain neighborhood. And they gave out full-size candy bars. what I should be giving out. The golden rule kind of fixes everything. You want to fix your marriage? It's just that easy. It's just that easy. It's just that easy. You want things to go right at work, school, in your house? You want to scream at your sister? Guess what? Right back at you. It's just that easy. Everyone who hears these words of mine and does them. Everyone who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. You know YOLO. I got a good friend. He'll say, you only live once. Boy, you gotta watch your perspective on that, don't you? People justify wrongdoing because they only live once. People justify righteousness because you only live once. I think to myself, I was scared as a parent because of the responsibility it was to raise up children to know the Lord. No greater responsibility. Seriously, no greater responsibility. And now I realize I only had one shot. You only have one chance to raise up your children. And so much of it comes back to your heart. That's where it starts, that's where it grows, and that's where it carries you through. Get that heart right, and your worship will be right. Get that heart right, and your marriage will be right. Get that heart right, but that requires change. That requires change. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up. That's train them. Bring them up in the discipline and in the instruction of the Lord. Those are the things we're to do. Jimmy, we got to change our hearts. We got to listen to Jesus. We have to act in all those ways. All right, guys. We're gonna make a good week.
We have to train every day. I think that's how you started it, right? We have to train.
Well, Rico was in training this week.
But I think you train every day through prayer and practice. And then we train every week when we're here with each other. You know, I liken it to sports, right? So, big time athletes make big time plays at big time moments. Why? Because they've trained. So when we're called, when the opportunity arises, are we going to be ready? Are we going to be ready to serve our neighbor? Are we going to be ready to not lash out in anger because we've trained ourselves to have a heart that is tender?
Right. That takes that action.
It takes action, it takes deliberate action, and it's an authenticity of your Christianity, I think. Not that you're not gonna, listen, you're gonna fall short,
Yeah.
you're gonna lash out in anger. But I think you train and you get better and you get better if you have a heart with the desire to continue to improve.
But I think a big problem is that I know many, many, many people that have a very good heart
Mm-hmm.
and are kind and generous and helpful and supportive and positive, but they're not Christians.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when a person sees someone who's happy and kind and generous, etc., they see them as just a good person. They don't see them as Christians.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's some way that we have got to identify ourselves to others as Christians. Whether that be when we, well, for example, Be My Eyes.
Okay.
I told you that every time I use Be My Eyes, I will say every time, 95% of the time when I use Be My Eyes and somebody's helping me, they end our conversation with, God bless you.
God bless you.
The majority of people that I find on Be My Eyes that are helping people have some comment about God.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really cool, because there are millions of them.
We're right back to letting your light shine. Right. To glorify God.
But I think that's where the action is that I'm not doing enough of. And that's when I talk to people, and I leave. I should be leaving with, God be with you.
Mm-hmm.
Not goodbye. God bless you. Whatever the case may be, I think we need to have not only as actions in our behaviors, but in our speech, having God more in it.
Mm-hmm. Steve.
Knowledge without application is totally, absolutely useless.
Yeah.
If you know something, you know what you need to do. You know, if you don't apply it, if something doesn't happen, it's useless.
That's it. Knowing the
That's-
word and living the word, right?
That's
It's
it.
two different things. You can be able to recite the Bible all day long, but if you're not putting your faith into practice and working on it every day, I don't know how valuable that is.
And our kids see it.
Mm-hmm.
They do.
They're the first ones to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you can fool some of the people, right? Some of the time.
That's what
But you ain't fooling an 8-year-old. They're watching, they're evaluating, they're knowing. Y'all know you've heard this quite a bit. I'll get it wrong. But the strong men make good times, and good times make weak men, and weak men make hard times, and hard times make strong men.
Yep.
And we learned that's not anything new, is it? You learn that in the book of Judges. If you don't know that, go back and read the book of Judges. Good times lead to, yeah. Where are we at on that
Mm.
cycle?
Depends on your perspective.
Right. Right.
But then again, are we in the spirit or in earth mode?
Well, we're stuck here on earth mode, aren't we?
Yeah.
But we gotta get our kids ready for whatever part of the cycle they find themselves in, that they're gonna have to be ready for that. I don't mean to be hard on y'all. I know I said last week, you fathers are pretty much done. You're formed up. You need to change and be more like Jesus. But I really want us to work on that next generation to be ready. Okay? Jason, if you'll lead us. And Jamie, will you do the closing prayer?